With OTAs essentially complete, it's time to review the biggest winners to save for your draft, the losers who are falling down draft boards, and close out with some sleepers who are gaining trust with their new coaches. If you're new here, my name is Seth. This is No BS Fantasy Football. I'm a member of the WalterPicks projection team, and I've helped literally thousands of people win their fantasy football leagues since I started my pages in 2021. So make sure you hit that like button, help us hit our like goal, helps a ton, and subscribe to get this kind of video that will give you an advantage over your league mates in your league this year. And we're going to get started with one of the most important offenses for fantasy football, considering how many cheap players they have on their team and how explosive they can be for fantasy football, the Colts. And our first loser here is Alec Pierce. He had surgery in March on his ankle. It was a nagging injury throughout last season. He still had a great year. You can see he had the exact same amount of yards as A.J. Brown in 2025, but Alec Pierce missing all of OTAs is a big deal. Michael Pittman Jr. now on my Pittsburgh Steelers, which leaves Pierce to be this team's new wide receiver one, building off an amazing 2025, even though he was dealing with that foot injury. But missing all of OTAs is going to bring up some of our winners, Tyler Warren and Josh Downs. Looking specifically at Tyler Warren, he was a top 5 tight end weeks 1 through 13 before Daniel Jones was injured last season. As just a rookie, we know tight ends, they generally take a little bit more time to develop compared to some of the other positions because it's such a big jump, not only in the receiving responsibilities, but also in the blocking responsibilities. But Tyler Warren was up for the challenge his rookie season. Now this offseason, throughout the OTAs, throughout training camp, when Alec Pierce is going to be missing, he will be the clear top target for the Colts, which is going to set him up to start dominating again right from week 1, just like he did last year. Looking at his draft price, he is looking like a steal as someone you can get well behind people like Colston Loveland, obviously way behind Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. And one of those tight ends we're going to actually talk about next is one of the biggest losers of OTAs, Trey McBride. Now, this is nothing against Trey McBride, guys. Hear me out on that. This has nothing to do with his ability, his talent. It's his quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Clearly, the quarterback this team needs to be successful in fantasy football. That's Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Love to some extent as well, since he's going to have such a big receiving role. But Jacoby Brissett is looking for a new deal and not participating in the OTAs. Now, this could cause a problem because right now he's got about $4.5 million on his contract. He wants more guaranteed money. He wants to be the starter. He wants to be paid like an NFL starter. Can't really blame the guy, but unfortunately, the Cardinals also want to lose a lot this season, get the #1 overall pick for 2027, and that's going to set them up with all these great skill position players and a great young quarterback. So the Cardinals could just call his bluff and say, well, we're not going to pay you. We'll just see what we have in Carson Beck, which in my opinion is going to help the Cardinals achieve their goal of getting that #1 overall pick. Would be terrible for fantasy football. Crushes the deep ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., crushes the deep ball to Michael Wilson. They would completely lose all relevant value in my opinion, but also Trey McBride. One of the things to watch out for here is that even if Jacoby Brissett starts off the season, he may not be the quarterback at the end of the year when the Cardinals, again, they play the Jets near the end of the season. They need to lose that game. That would be the perfect week to bring in Carson Beck. That's right in the fantasy football playoffs. That's something to be concerned about with these Cardinals pass catchers, is that if the team says, hey, Jacoby, you've had your run, we're going to give you an opportunity, but we want to lose the rest of the season, or we want to see if Carson Beck can really execute at the NFL level, they bring him in halfway through the year. Now your Cardinals values in the most important part of your fantasy football season are losing value. So I do need to get them at a little bit more of a discount compared to their 2025 numbers if I'm going to draft Cardinals for my team in 2026. And that leads right into one of our biggest winners for opposite reasons, the Kansas City Chiefs pass catchers, because their key quarterback, the quarterback they need, Patrick Mahomes, if they want to be successful in fantasy football, back at OTAs after suffering an ACL tear in 2025. Looks good, maybe not 100%, but good enough, looking good, targeting in week 1. And of course, that's used specifically for Rashee Rice. Last season, when he was in the game, he was wide receiver 4 overall. And his draft price this year, he's going in round 2 or even round 3 on some platforms currently. Major steal. He's got the potential to be the overall wide receiver 1, and having Patrick Mahomes back for week 1 is going to enable him to have that major potential. And right now, he's at a major discount. So definitely one of the players you want to save for your draft from this video is Rashee Rice, because he's not facing suspension. Everyone hears his name in the news, see he's going to jail. This isn't going to impact his play time in 2026, which makes him a top draft target with Patrick Mahomes trending for week 1. And we do have 2 more losers before we get to 2 all-important sleepers. 2 guys I'm drafting at the end of my drafts that have league winning potential. And the first loser, unfortunately, is a guy I actually do like for fantasy football this year, Eli Stowers. He's a rookie, highly drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles this season, made zero splash at OTAs. And with A.J. Brown going to the Patriots, the Eagles fans, the Eagles writers, this Eagles team is looking to replace him, looking to have that big body downfield wide receiver that Eli Stowers can be in the headlines. They want him in the news. They want to show, hey, we let this guy go, but not all is lost. We have some replacement players that can make big highlight plays. We didn't really see anything from Eli Stowers. So again, I'm not writing him off for fantasy football this season, but those first impressions do matter. This is a time like those two sleepers we're going to talk about where you can really build some serious trust with the coaching staff, where you can really show the quarterback, hey, I'm going to be a reliable guy for you this season. And if you don't start to build that repertoire early on, especially as a rookie, it can be difficult to gain it later on as the season goes on because you're just not getting the opportunities to do so. So watch out for Eli Stowers. Definitely a name to track during training camp this season, because if he does start to break out, again, he could be good for fantasy football. Someone to stash, maybe that could break out over the back half of the season as he continues to get his feet wet. But if he's not going to make an impact in OTAs and we don't see much in training camp, he may overall be in a void for your team where you can draft some of these other higher upside players. And that brings us to our second loser before we get to those all-important sleepers, Nicholas Singleton, rookie running back for the Tennessee Titans. Because you look at this Tennessee backfield, you see Tony Pollard, you see Tajay Spears, not that exciting. It is important to remember the Titans have made some major offensive upgrades this offseason, Carnell Tate, and added some offensive line help as well. This offense is going to be better than it was in 2025, which is huge for the running backs. But Nicholas Singleton comes in, and we're hoping that without the excitement around Pollard or Spears, maybe he can jump in, have some passing upside, be someone that could be relevant from late in drafts, especially if you like the zero RB strategy. But in OTAs, they're saying the bell cows, normally it's just one guy. They're saying bell cows is Pollard and Spears. And for me, the main target I'd be going after in fantasy football is Pollard. Not an exciting option, but if you go zero RB or you need some RB depth, he is a guy that can get you, 10 to 12 to 14 points on any given week. And he's someone that is going to be relied heavily on by this Tennessee offense, which again was upgraded compared to 2025. So there's additional upside there, but unfortunately not for Nicholas Singleton. Now it's time for those all important sleepers, and make sure you are subscribed, because one of the ways we have helped those thousands of people win their leagues is some of the late round gems we found at the end of draft, the sleepers. We've hit on these a little bit more than maybe some of the other pages, which gives you a major advantage. And the first is Rachaad White. We look at this Commanders backfield, it's kind of up in the air. They've got a lot of guys that could make some sort of impact. Bill Krosky-Merritt seems like the leader right now with Chris Rodriguez going to the Jaguars. He's a sleeper. That's a bonus one for you. But looking at these OTAs, Bill Krosky-Merritt is injured, and teams don't have to report what the injury is quite yet, but he's not practicing. This gives Rachaad White, who's brand new to the Commanders, the opportunity to lead this backfield. And one of the things happening during these OTAs is he's building trust with his coaches. And what they are saying is that he has major receiving upside. That's not something they really had much of in 2025. And especially if you play in a PPR league, that receiving upside, you get 5 catches a game for 50 yards. That's 10 points right there. You add a touchdown in there. Now we're talking some major fantasy points. You don't need a ton of touches if you are the team's receiving back. With Jane Daniels distracting defenses, that receiving back in this Commanders offense could be especially powerful. So again, a zero RB candidate, someone to go for at the end of your draft. Rachaad White could be a major steal in fantasy football this year. The other sleeper I want to talk about is Quentin Johnson. Last season, he had 7 games over 14 fantasy points. He did start to flash the potential. I know people have written him off because he did struggle quite a bit in his rookie year, but he has continued to get better. But the thing we're looking at in OTAs is working with his new offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel. Now, during these OTAs, Justin Herbert, he's not out there throwing. He's working on his footwork to get the ball out of his hands faster. They're all in on this Mike McDaniel offense. And the thing to note about Quentin Johnson, you look at this team. Did they bring in some competition? Not really. They lost Keenan Allen. There was a lot of draft rumors that they're going to replace Quentin Johnson. They're going to trade him for A.J. Brown. There's all these rumors that Quentin Johnson is no longer going to be with the team. He's there. They didn't replace him, and Mike McDaniel's working with him, looking at his speed. This is the type of guy that can fully unlock a player like Quentin Johnson. Remember, highly drafted, highly successful in his college career, and overall, this Chargers offense is something you need to have for fantasy football. Ladd McConkey, again, Keenan Allen's gone. You look at Oronde Gadsden, David Njoku, not the most exciting tight end options, but Amarian Hampton, Quentin Johnson, Justin Herbert are going to be unlocked by Mike McDaniel, one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. Plus, the Chargers are getting much healthier. Their offensive line has some Pro Bowl caliber players like Joe Alt, who was injured last season. So not only are they bringing in a great offensive mind, they're also getting much healthier than they were in 2025. It's like adding some great offensive players, some great linemen to their team because they missed so much of 2025 injured. Overall, this is going to make Quentin Johnson a steal in drafts because there's so many players that'll just never draft him in your league, which makes him fall further and further back. So we can get him at a steal, absolutely no risk in the 9th, 10th, or even 11th round. And those are your OTAs, winners and losers. And like I said earlier, guys, I'm on the WalterPicks projection team, so I'm making sure these winners are being pushed up the draft board. So they are recommended if you have the WalterPicks app. You can find that down in the description and download with